Hello, this is Jim Potts with Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Today we're going to do a presentation on Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act for adult eligibility. Under the adult title of WIOA, there's a lot of different policies and guidance that's relevant. You have first the overall Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014 that actually became effective July 1st of 2015. Then you have the Training and Employment Guidance Letter 1916, which is the most current guidance from Department of Labor on the Adult and Dislocated Worker Program. That was put out in March of 2017, and it's still relevant and the most current. You have, under our commerce policies, you have general eligibility, selective service, and then the adult eligibility. You have low income eligibility and service priorities policy, as well as the Commerce Notice for Basic Skills Deficiency. But you'll also notice at the bottom of this slide, there's a URL to the Apprenticeship resources page. This is a really handy resource that lists a lot of information about the apprenticeship program, including on there, there's a link to the eligibility documents that includes all the various federal and state guidance that I've referenced in this presentation, as well as the other ones that I've done on WIOA eligibility. Prior to reviewing this presentation on the adult eligibility, it is important that you view and understand the details that were covered in the previous presentations on WIOA general eligibility and WIOA low income. If you have not viewed those presentations on WIOA general eligibility and WIOA low income, you need to go do those now prior to watching this presentation. If you don't do those two prior, you're going to miss a lot of the content that's very relevant. Under adult eligibility, WIOA legislation requires that an adult be 18 years of age, be a citizen or non-citizen that's authorized to work in the United States, and meet military selective service registration requirements, which is only required for males. WIOA adult clients who meet WIOA low-income criteria are a priority under the WIOA legislation for the adult program. Adult clients who are determined to be basic skills deficient or considered English language learners are also a priority under the WIOA legislation. So it's really important to understand low-income, basic skills deficient, and English language learner are equal priorities under the adult title. As I mentioned, we did a complete separate presentation on WIOA low income. There are 8 different ways somebody can be low income, and it's imperative that you go and view that PowerPoint on low income if you have not done so yet. Also, it's important to understand there is a veteran's priority of service. This was also covered under the general eligibility. And what a veteran's priority service is if a client is a veteran, qualified spouse of a veteran, or a transitioning service member, they must be given priority over individuals who are not veterans, qualified spouse, or transitioning service members. So we're going to discuss the service priority policy that Commerce has out. If you're working with adult clients, the highest possible priority of an adult client under WIOA is a veteran or an eligible spouse of a veteran who meet either WIOA low-income guidelines or are basic skills deficient or are English language learner. The second priority under the adult title are individuals who are not veterans who meet either the WIOA low-income criteria or are BSD, basic skills deficient, or English language learner. The third priority are veterans or eligible spouses who do not meet WIOA low-income criteria and are not basic skills deficient or English language learner. And then the last one, the fourth criteria under the adult, is an individual who is not a veteran, who is not WIOA low-income criteria, and who is not basic skills deficient or English language learner. So it's important at all times to follow this priority. It does not mean you cannot serve adult clients in the category of 4. What it means is you can only serve category 4 if you have served the 1, 2, and 3 categories. The same for 3, you can serve individuals in 3 as long as you've served 1 and 2. You can serve 2 as long as you served 1, and then of course 1 is the highest priority. And under the WIOA legislation, we should always be looking to serve the priority population. So when we're doing outreach, we should be looking for veterans and eligible spouses who meet low-income criteria or have issues with basic skills deficient English language learner. If all we're doing is waiting for folks to come in under category 4 that don't have the barriers, we're missing a lot of the point of the outreach that the WIOA legislation had put in for the priority systems for adult titles. Under low income, as was addressed in the WIOA low income presentation, there are 8 different ways an adult client can meet WIOA low income criteria. And if a client meets any one of those 8 WIOA low income criteria, they should receive that priority under the adult title for the apprenticeship expansion program. We have not covered basic skills deficient, so we're going to do that now. And the definition of basic skills deficient is a use that the individual has English, reading, writing, or computing skills at or below the 8th grade level on generally accepted standardized tests, or who is a youth or adult that the individual is unable to compute or solve problems or read, write, or speak English at a level necessary to function on the job, in the individual's family, or in society. So this definition is really important to understand. So how can we meet these portions of the definition? Well, for the first portion, it's if an individual scores at or below 8th grade level on either their math or reading assessment test, they could be determined basic skills deficient. So again, the assessment test might be a TABE test or a CASAS test or some other form of a standardized test that awards a grade level proficiency. And if they're at or below 8th grade, they're considered basic skills deficient. Also, in WIOA Notice 19.01, Change 1 that was released by the Office of Employment Training Commerce in July of 2020, it includes an alternative way an individual could be determined basic skills deficient using the basic skills screening tool. We're going to cover that in a moment. And lastly, if an individual is assessed as an English language learner, they also are determined to be basic skills deficient, and we'll cover that definition here in a moment of English language learner. So the basic skills screening tool, and this again is part of the WIOA Notice 19.01. If the individual replies no to either of these 6 questions, they can be determined basic skills deficient. So the first question, do you have a high school diploma, general education, development, GED certificate, or a high school equivalency diploma? If the answer to that question is no, then the client can be determined basic skills deficient. Do keep in mind on the far right, if somebody is currently in high school, this does not include they should not be answering this question no. This is only for folks who should have received their high school diploma or their GED or the high school equivalency, and now they're out. So you're looking at folks who are out of high school. The second question, can you follow written instructions and diagrams with no help, or just get a little help? If the answer is no, the client can be determined basic skills deficient. Third question, can you fill out basic medical forms and job applications? If the response is a no, the client would be determined basic skills deficient. Fourth, can you add, subtract, multiply, and divide with whole numbers up to 3 digits? If the answer is a no, the client could be determined basic skills deficient. Fifth question, can you do basic tasks on a computer? If the question is a no, the client can be determined basic skills deficient. And lastly, do you speak and read English well enough to get and keep a job? If the answer is a no, then the client can be determined basic skills deficient. Again, this tool is part of WIOA Notice 19.01, and when it's completed, the client signs it as well as the staff member working with the client, and this could be used to support basic skills deficiency. That definition of English language learner that I spoke about, and it is when used with respect to an eligible individual, means an eligible individual who has limited ability in reading, writing, speaking, or comprehending the English language, and whose native language is a language other than English, or who lives in a family or community environment where a language other than English is the dominant language. So in this definition, there's really no test to take. It's based on assessment of the clients and the client's personal feedback. I really would not feel comfortable telling somebody they're an English language learner. I think it'd be important for them to understand the definition and themselves to give the feedback that they feel they are. So it might be something, a consideration for determining somebody's an English language learner. Within the apprenticeship application, there are questions that, if indicated with a check mark, will correspond to the barrier of either basic skills deficient or English language learner. If these are identified when the eligibility determination is completed, it will require the documentation to support the barrier. So we're going to go over those questions now. So on the goals and current situation screen in the application, there's a section under education. And there's two questions. I have a hard time with reading, writing, and or math, and I have trouble with reading or speaking English. If either one of those checked, they're going to meet the criteria of either basic skills deficient or English language learner. For the question, I have a hard time reading, writing, and or math, this is tied to the definition of basic skills deficient, and below are the current acceptable documentation choices. You'll notice at the bottom they do have that basic skills screening tool. You could also use tests of authorized assessment tests or school records verifying that an applicant is unable to take an assessment test. For the question, I have trouble with reading or speaking English, this is the barrier of an English language learner. Shown directly below are the acceptable documentation choices for the English language learner. So again, you have the basic skills screening tool, you have the results of authorized assessment, you can have the client's WIOA application where he or she identified as an English language learner with an attestation, you can have the case notes from the career planner's assessment. So to recap, for overall WIOA adult eligibility, a client must be 18 years of age or older, be legally authorized to work in the U.S., and if a male who was born on or after January 1st, 1960, he must be compliant with selective service requirements. However, it is important that the priorities laid out in the Office of Employment Training WIOA priorities policy is followed, meaning veterans of prior service must be followed, any qualified adult who meets WIOA low-income criteria, and again, there's a separate presentation on the WIOA low-income, or if the client is basic skills deficient or is considered an English language learner, they must be given priority to eligible adults who do not meet the priorities laid out. This concludes the presentation on WIOA adult eligibility. If you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me at james.potts@illinois.gov, or you can call me at 217-416-7097. Thanks and have a great day.